but then the opportunity to kind of be class president rose. I kind of threw my hat in the ring, and it was fun. I went into it just kind of trying to like serve others. It wasn't to bolster my resume or anything, but I could just see a need for our class to be represented. That's a great question. I think it's the game of comparison, and we live in a world where it's all over. Social media, it's just in our face, and some of it may be real, some of it may not be. So early on in your career, even later in your career, it's just try not to get sucked into the game of comparison. What keeps me grounded is really, family, children, and, also knowing that life is not always meant to be easy. So it's like embracing those times of challenges, knowing that you're growing, you're shaping. And now I'm kind of getting to, not like the next part of my career, but seeing that I first set out to just do everything I could to be the best, clinical dentist I could, the best owner. Now it's, how do I elevate, other team members, help them become the best version of themselves and, pursue a life that's, bigger than maybe they could imagine. Right.
Looking for real stories of real people making a difference in the Grand Canyon State? Welcome to Finding Arizona podcast. We sit down with Arizona's inspiring entrepreneurs, creatives, and community leaders and give you a front row seat to their journeys, passions, and projects. Whether you're a local trying to find a hidden gem or just enjoy watching someone chase their dreams, Finding Arizona is your go-to place for authentic conversations with a desert twist. New episodes drop weekly, so hit subscribe and start exploring Arizona one story at a time. Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose, and as always, we bring in fantastic guests every week. Today's no different. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to introduce Dr. Kristopher Alpers is a Scottsdale-based dentist, entrepreneur, and mentor, and the founder of Alpers Family and Cosmetic Dentistry, a practice known for combining cutting-edge technology with truly personalized, patient-first approach. He's been recognized as one of Arizona's best doctors for both 2025 and 2026 and specializes in cosmetic and implant dentistry, creating natural and thoughtfully designed smile transformations. Today, he also mentors dentists through Pathways Implants program, coaches practice owners nationwide with Bulletproof Dental, and a volunteer at the Neighborhood Christians Clinic in downtown Phoenix, shaping both smiles and the next generations for healthcare leaders. Thank you, Dr. Alpers. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jose.
No problem. It's been great to kind of do research on you and to get to know you a little bit better. It's just one of those things where I'm like, oh man, dentistry can be not only for some kind of a scary experience, but also for others, it's been quite pleasant. And so we're going to talk a little bit about your journey. And personally, I just am always intrigued what is the foundational pieces to an individual and their story and how they've branched out and become the person that they are. So I will ask you the question that we typically ask everyone. Give us a little bit of your origin story. How does one get into the dentistry world? Also, how does it play a big role in your life growing up? Tell me a little bit about your family too.
Yeah, thanks, Jose. So my wife and I were originally from Minneapolis. We moved to the Phoenix area about 11 years ago. It's kind of like a dream come true for me. My grandparents retired here. I always kind of dreamed of being able to live here. And we made the move after dental school in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And we really, really love the community. We're excited to be here. We have 2 boys, 3.5, 6.5. So we were just saying it's kind of a wild time, but it's a ton of fun.
There's so much that I always ask this because it's always kind of the ideal way to introduce a story to a group of people and just your story in general. Was there anyone that had dentistry in their, in your family's past, or was dentistry something that you found passion for? Like, how does one get to where you're at?
Yeah, how does somebody end up becoming a dentist?
Yeah.
Great question. A lot of my classmates, they had family members that were dentists. I do not have anybody directly in my family that is a dentist. I knew I wanted to do something in healthcare fairly early on. Wasn't 100% sure what that looked like, if I wanted to be a physician, pharmacist, physical therapist. And then kind of early on in my undergrad education, I started kind of pondering what I really wanted to do. My mother-in-law happened to be a dental hygienist. She kind of planted the seed of what that could look like. And once I was exposed to it, I really was kind of drawn to it for the fact that there's a lot of patient interaction. There's some artistry of being able to do stuff with your hands was kind of important. I was interested. I was always like had kind of a interest in like art and like sculpture and that sort of stuff. And then the other thing that drew me towards it was the potential to own your own business. Now, way back then, I had no idea what that looked like, but it seemed interesting. And once I kind of jumped on, that's what I went after.
Did anyone own any other like their own businesses around you or your family?
No, not really.
No
I was kind of not directly. My grandpa had a pretty successful business career, kind of traveling the world, but not anybody that necessarily owned their own business.
Yeah.
I thought the idea of being able to be your own boss and kind of do that sounded pretty cool to me.
I get it, because one of those things is, we're children. We soak in what's around us. And so the intrigue of certain things that aren't around us, it always kind of, it always makes us think. And, that the idea of like grass is greener on the other side, I imagine myself too as a child, one of the experience, and we'll get into this about my own dentistry, is it's like, I just remember being so, I don't know, the word isn't afraid, but just not interested in the dentist, like the world of dentistry. And so when I would go to the dentist, it would be very like standoffish. And
Sure.
I've grown out of that, of course, but it was one of those things where it's like, I don't know if it was just my first couple of remembrance of early on as a child just weren't great, or if it was just always kind of a thing where it's like, I just don't want to be here. But
Right.
I do want to say though, entrepreneurship on that side of the spectrum, I've always been around. And so my father has always been kind of the guy who, does a lot of things or creates a lot of business or tries to come up with something and does it. That's always been around me. So entrepreneurship has been the guiding light, and storytelling itself has always been kind of at the forefront of that for me. So going back into your story, I do know that you yourself, as a Minnesota boy growing up, basketball played a role in your life. Am I right in this direction, or was
yeah. It did. Sitting down, you can't tell, but I am 6'9", so I'm pretty tall. People usually say that when we have podcast interaction, they meet me as like, wow, you don't look so tall.
Yeah,
sitting down. But basketball was a big part of my life. Kind of a overview of what that looked like is in 8th grade, I was cut from basketball, and it was kind of a pivotal moment of like, what am I going to do? But I kind of ever since then had a chip on my shoulder, and fortunately was able to earn a Division I scholarship, played through college, provided quite a bit through that. I had some great mentors that, looking back, took me under my wing or under their wing and really kind of shaped a lot of who I am. But basketball has been a big part of my life. It was a grind, a challenge, but everything that you go through with that did shape a lot of what I do right now and kind of how I see, people, business, mentoring, coaching. It was really a big part of my life.
It's wonderful to hear, because, I can definitely appreciate that and empathize with all of that, because growing up, my dad was, I'm 6'1", he's 6'4", but basketball has played an influence in that he was very into it, and he, went all the way to basically, I think he was scouted for college, but he never he went into the military instead. And so and that's how I was born, is that he met my mom. And so that being said, it's played a big part because I watched him still go to the basketball courts, and we would watch him do pickup games. He was a coach for my family, or for me and my brother. But it is a grind. It is something where it's like those mornings where you wake up and you have to train and all that. It's like everything kind of leads to a development of skills, skill sets, and just kind of a overall toughness coming into the world of business, and just doing everything in sports will give you every opportunities to succeed outside of life. And so I think that's really great that you had that accomplishment. Now, you did undercut yourself by saying you went to college, you got a scholarship, but you're misleading. You went to Marquette University, which is a really good basketball school, right?
Yeah, I didn't play basketball at Marquette.
Okay.
I went dental school. I wish I could say I played basketball. I played for a small Division I school called Lipscomb, and then I happened to transfer to where my wife was playing volleyball at Michigan Tech. But just like you're saying, that like the act of discipline, sacrifice, waking up early, training, teamwork, kind of it does play a big parallel in business and just life moving forward.
Will you give me a little insight into the world that you went into when you did go into Marquette? Now I'm leading you into the question of your leadership skills, because you did something over there that I would like our audience to understand, with becoming, I believe, the class president.
Yeah, right. Great, kind of great segue into that. So in dental school, kind of was involved, like a little bit hands off with that, but then the opportunity to kind of be class president rose. I kind of threw my hat in the ring, and it was fun. I went into it just kind of trying to like serve others. It wasn't to bolster my resume or anything, but I could just see a need for our class to be represented, and I stepped into that, and it was kind of a fun experience to be a part of.
I love that, because again, the fact that your intentions were to fulfill a need, and that's always something that we're, as a clientele base and just a service based industry, like where I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs end up becoming entrepreneurs because they are trying to fulfill a need, and they see a really big need in the world, and they want to make sure that is accomplished. It's something that either they are looking for, or they just hear or encounter a lot throughout life. So the fact that you went in with that intention and just allowed yourself to go with the flow and just really accept the role is a great deal of it shows character. And that's really cool to me, especially when it comes to meeting someone who's trying to, succeed at business and become someone successful and lead others as well. So it shows a lot of character on your end. Did you pick up, or can you share a defining moment during dental school that confirmed this is what you're meant to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like a defining moment. I'd say in dental school early on, I think it was our first year, there was a event called Mission of Mercy, where it's basically all the underserved or people that don't have access to dentistry. The community comes around and puts on a weekend of like more or less free dental care. And I think early on when I was thrown into that, you see this need, dentistry can be scary. It can be expensive. Sometimes people don't have access to it. But when you could see that need being met by something that you're able to do or provide, and take people out of pain or provide a service that they really need, it really affirmed kind of the trajectory that I was on. And then, then there's the actual like procedures you're doing. You're having fun with that. But once you could kind of see that was like the first time at like the true patient care experience need what's out there was exposed in dental school, and that really kind of launched the confidence moving forward.
That's great. I really do. I think it's amazing because it's like from our perspective, from being on the podcast side, we've had a lot of nonprofits, and one that still sticks out to me is the nonprofit of there was I want to say the Smile Zone that goes into lower income neighborhoods and the elementary schools and provides checks and cleanings, but they want to continue to do and go into more procedurals and give them what they truly need is, preventative care. And so
Sure.
that's something that it just stood out to me to hear your story, and that you've done the work yourself, where it's like going out and trying to provide something that people actually need and care for. It really does stand out to me because it touches my heart. I love that kind of work, and it does. I mean, it goes a long way. I mean, we can talk about not only just the physical health, but the mental health as well. We all feel better if we're smiling, and we're smiling
Definitely.
big. So, I just think it's really great that there are more people, and there are people like you out there that just really want to make a difference and help others. So thank you for sharing that. The other part of this is now transitioning you away from Minnesota and into Arizona that we just talked about earlier on. What was that transition like personally and professionally?
Yeah, great. Early on, when we first moved out to Arizona, I really didn't have something lined up. My wife was able to get a job transfer. She worked for Mortensen Construction, so that kind of gave us the jump. And early on, it wasn't necessarily easy, finding a great starting position. I was part-time at a couple places. Looking back, I was kind of like, I wouldn't say like disgruntled, but I was kind of like torn, like this isn't for me. But I was able to be exposed to different ways to practice dentistry. And I wouldn't say there's a bad way to practice dentistry. There's just different models, and they fit, and they serve a need for different people and different scopes. But early on, I was able to kind of, through those different ways to practice, whether it's nonprofit or there's a more corporate side of dentistry, I was able to kind of see what's out there and then kind of start to believe what it could be, or really like how I wanted to practice. And that's kind of like, jumping forward a few years. Once I was able to have my own practice, was kind of the early shaping time that I was like, hey, this is what dentistry could be. And this is how I see it best, or for me, and then kind of seek out and drive and build, what that looks like.
It's a great testament to you as a kind of a business owner, that you've seen a lot of these different levels, and you've allowed yourself to be open enough to, participate in those kind of different areas. Because for me, my degree when I went to school was, landscape architecture, and this is clearly not landscape architecture.
Yeah.
But like yourself, there are different categories where, there's smaller boutique design firms, and then there's the larger corporate. There are levels to doing the work. I've technically have touched the different areas, small, medium, large. But, there's something about what I do now that just, I find myself very attracted to it and very focused and at ease and at peace and calmness, where the other side of that, where I was doing design, didn't feel quite myself, and it felt like a mask.
Sure.
But it was still something that I knew I felt confident in. I had success in. So there are things that, you weigh the challenges, and you kind of make a decision in life when it comes down to it, where it's like, I love this. And I'm just saying, I go back to, it's great as an entrepreneur that you've experienced, and as a leader, you've experienced these different levels so that you can hone in on what specifically you liked and bring that to your practice. And that shows just from the fact that you've been categorized and nominated and actually awarded best, being best in here in Arizona. But it's also just from the fact that our conversation has opened up so much of who you are. And it's really great that I've been able to just pick your brain for a couple of minutes now. But I will now move on to like, what were some of the early, I mean, you talked about some of the early challenges when you started the dentistry, but what was the vision you had in mind that felt different than traditional practices? Because you did bring that up, bringing those little components over. So what made you feel confident in those like different makers?
Sure. Yeah. I love that question. And, some of it ties into dentistry, like differentiators in dentistry. A lot of it too is differentiators just in like how medicine is, because I think there's a lot of overlap of people's expectations or kind of not like pain points when they think of like how they're treated kind of in today's like medical model. So some of it, the passion has come from what I've seen others do within dentistry, but there's also just ways that I've seen and experienced myself that just in medicine of feeling more like a number, not having kind of the personalized touch, and really kind of setting out to try to be different with that instead of, being a volume-based practice, really honing in on kind of the highest quality and not only the highest quality outcomes, but the experience that comes with that. So, like when we walk somebody through kind of big treatment, just like you were saying, it's like a lot of people, there's a lot of anxiety that goes into dentistry. I know the traditional dental experience is probably about as bad as it can be. Go into a cold, sterile room, smells weird. You get leaned back in a vulnerable position. There's somebody in a mask that pokes you and tells you everything that's wrong with you. And then you get hit with a expensive treatment plan. So I know that, we know that, and what we believe in the value, and that can be different. So we believe in, trying to provide the highest quality, highest touch point, use all the greatest technology and diagnostics to give the patient the opportunity to be as healthy as possible. And then I take it really personal that not only like getting you to sign up with the treatment, but when you sign up with a treatment with us, it'll be pretty much like, it's kind of like a, more of like a, like we're going to walk you through it. It's not just going to be like, hey, we're doing this major treatment, we'll see you on the other side. It's like, we're going to put a lot of thought in how does it work in your schedule. We have, videos that walk you through the process to kind of put you at ease. If something pops up, like I personally text all of my patients just because so many times, like you leave, you have a question like, hey, how are you doing? Yeah. So literally all of my patients can text me at any point. And, it's nice where it's like, you look at medical, like you might have the simplest question, but you can't get a response for, 10 days. So just trying to make that, touch point personal. So not only is the quality of what we deliver, really great, but also just like the experience, because I see the person behind it. I see the stress, the anxiety, the financial commitment to really try to be different.
Hey, all you Finding Arizona fans, this is Jose saying that we got a huge celebration coming up, our 500th episode. So on March 14th from 6 to 8 here at Backlot Studios, we want you to come on down. If you just found us, or even if you've been with us since the very first episode, this celebration is for you. We are going to be connecting the past, the present, and the future of Finding Arizona podcast. So come celebrate. It's really great. That stands out a lot. So now that we're talking about kind of those touch points and the personal touches, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was you're known for combining cutting edge technology with the personal patient first approach. How do you balance tech and human connection?
Yeah, it's, we're at such an interesting time, and it's an exciting time with automation, AI. The world is changing like never before. And in dentistry, it's exciting because we have access to so much of that AI, 3D diagnostics, but really it's always about the person behind it. So being able to use this technology, there's still a human component of being able to use it and explain it, be able to connect with that person in the chair. And that's one, special thing about dentistry and a changing world. There's still that, face-to-face connection. So We try to use that technology to our benefit, but really being able to double down to communicate, make sure we're connecting and building that relationship with our patients. So they're able to see, what we see, and ultimately have an opportunity to be as healthy as possible.
I imagine you go to these conferences and there are a couple of use booths, like you use the tech booth, like
Sure.
and there's in my head there's an image of like a dentist trying out a different drill, like brand new drills, and picking them up and just doing that thing on Wayne's World where he was playing with the gun. He was like,
yeah.
And I'm just imagining one of these dentists just hey, this is great. I don't know why it just is funny in my head, but you do go to these conferences and you see the new tech. And I'm a kid in a candy store with new gadgets, so
Right.
I like to play around. So I imagine myself doing that. So yeah,
it's fun. There are sides of it with 3D printing. It's tempting just to make toys and stuff like that.
Think about that.
So there is a fun side of it too. Yeah.
That's just you just already made me go down a different path of what my thought was for what we were going to go. But I will go back to my notes here. Is what's a smile transformation story that has really stuck out to you or have reminded you that this work really matters?
Yeah, well, I have a couple going on right now. They come to us all the time. One that really stands out to me is it was a young woman that she was born with a tooth that more or less was missing. So the way it was missing, you can imagine half her smile was just, it ended up being missing. So most of her life, she's in her 30s, she's told that there's really nothing she can do, right? She's missing half her smile. She has a huge smile, but she has to hide it. Now, fast forward, we're almost near the finish line, and she starts to see what it could be. And then to hear her come back and be like, I haven't smiled, my entire life. And I am she's all done up, her makeup, she's starting to smile. And she's telling me my muscles are sore because I haven't used them for smiling. And her and her husband are just on cloud nine. So, being able to walk somebody through that, not everything we do is, life-changing in dentistry.
Yeah.
But those types of things really can be impactful because it impacts your confidence. And when you can hear somebody say it's been years or a lifetime that I haven't been able to do something, then you're making a bigger impact than just teeth. It's somebody's confidence, their day-to-day, just well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Thank you for that. That made me smile. I know. That being said, I kind of go to now your accomplishments and knowing that you have been awarded one of Arizona's best doctors. I want to know what it feels like to be recognized for something like that and how you stay grounded in those moments. Because for someone of my own stature of outside looking in, you seem very grounded already and you seem very well-rounded. Is that a testament to your Minnesota upbringing?
It could be, the awards, they're super humbling. It's something I'm proud of, other things. It's not necessarily something that I pursued. Mm-hmm. I think just early on, whether it's basketball, it's always just trying to kind of, be the best that I could and pursue, continued education and just try to be my best. So it's a very humbling honor. It's I do feel now an extra sense of pressure to kind of deliver that high quality care. But it is a testament not only to what I do, but I'm one of many people on my team. My team, helps make me as successful as I am. They're just, as much involved in that. Mm-hmm. And then just, ultimately just trying to do it for the patients to, be as good as I can to deliver the best care for them is kind of what keeps me going.
That's great. I love that. That's it's again a testament to who you are. And so you did bring up the fact that you do work with a team. I will talk about them in a moment here, but I would like to also bring up that you mentor as well. So beyond clinical work, you were mentored dentists through Pathways Implants program and Bulletproof Dental. What motivated you to start coaching others?
Yeah, it's, early on in my basketball career, I said, there's somebody that mentored me. His name was Chris Carr. He's a former NBA player, and he took me under, really under his wing, and just, he shaped me so much. I was the son of a single mom. My dad passed away when I was fairly young, and it was just looking back, so transformational to me. Now, once again, to be a coach and a mentor, it's really humbling to even be, offered that, right? It's not necessarily something I pursued, but once I was presented with the opportunity, I definitely took it, because I can see how impactful those people have been in my life, whether it's basketball or dentistry, and the people that have poured into me, have transformed my trajectory. And being able to share that and do that for others has really made a huge impact. Clinical dentistry can be really challenging, so see people get excited with that.
Yeah.
Same thing with business ownerships, with, I'm sure with podcasting or any entrepreneurs, if you're in a silo, it can be really challenging sometimes. So just being a part of a community, being able to coach and mentor, there's always people pouring into me and trying to do the same to others. And it's really kind of what it's all about.
I love that. That's, again, I think we as humans in general just are very communal creatures, and just wanting to, not be in a vacuum, like you said. And I find that it's very enlightening that to see, again, a level of self-awareness from a professional, and that you did bring up. Dentistry is not hard. It's actually one of the, I feel like there was a number out there where it's you guys are pretty high up there on the high stress level, scale of job.
It's not great. We're up on the highest levels of suicide, depression, substance abuse, and a lot of that goes into just the stress that's put on us. And I think looking back at it, it's just when you're on your own, with anything, especially in a high stress community. So it's been super important to me when I've been involved in these groups, and then being able to be that for somebody else, I think can make a much bigger impact than just the dentistry.
Yeah. What's a common mistake that you see young dentists or practice owners make, and how do you help them avoid it?
That's a great question. I think it's the game of comparison, and we live in a world where it's all over, social media. It's just in our face, and some of it may be real, some of it may not be. So early on in your career, even later in your career, it's just trying not to get sucked into the game of comparison, and just constantly coming back to doing your best and knowing what's really, real out there, I think is usually the trap that I see really anybody, but definitely young dentist, of kind of seeing, what's possible, because it can be a beautiful career. There's so much you can do. And then just kind of whatever you set out to do, just make it, what works best for you.
Yeah. Tell me about your volunteer work at the neighborhood clinic. What impact has serving others had on your perspective for clinic work and leadership and things like that?
Yeah. Early on in my career, I was, presented with that opportunity to first volunteer at the neighborhood Christian clinic. I went in there and I just saw, these great people that there's just such a need. And, dentistry, it can be quite expensive. It can be scary. So being able to, be the hand that can provide that to somebody, to keep them out of pain, provide something, was really something that shaped me. And I was able to serve as the dental director there for a couple of years early on in my career too, not as a volunteer, but as a, paid team member, and kind of lead a team of volunteers. But just seeing, medical dental professionals come together to offer the care to these people that there really is a need at almost no charge, is still something that, I'm passionate about at this current life stage. I don't have as much time as I once did, but I do still try to get there as much as I can, because it's a great organization, and there's many that are like this, that there's a need to be filled, and as professions that take a lot of training, I think it's great to have that in perspective of there's usually an outlet that you can always continue to give back to those that need it.
Yeah. I look at it, and it's just really great that you have that opportunity, because I hope that you get a chance to return, because I think it would be a great influence and great look for your children. I find myself wanting to do more in service of others, and it's just, for me, I'm like, I don't know, some semblance of like wanting to show him that he can put in work without just without asking or without being asked,
right.
and do something with that. And so, yeah, I hope you get another chance to participate and volunteer again. And it sounds like really great work.
Yeah, I'm scheduled to go out there soon, but you bring out a great perspective of it not just being about us, then it starts to become about the next generation, exposing them to all different types of people, and that there's a need to take care of everybody.
One of my, I keep bringing this up in different podcasts, but it's true. It's a saying that I kind of keep dear to my heart, and it's just kind of keep thinking. It's kind of a semblance to the next generation, but it goes, communities are made by those who plant trees they know they will never sit under the shade of. And it's just a nice little thing that, I want to plant seeds for others so that they can enjoy it, not just for me.
Right. Yeah, it's great.
So that being said, I'd love to get into your philosophy really quickly about leadership and personal growth. Is when things get hard personally or professionally, what keeps you going, or what keeps you grounded?
Yeah. It's a great question. What keeps me grounded is really, family, children, and, also knowing that life is not always meant to be easy. So it's embracing those times of challenges, knowing that you're growing, you're shaping. And now I'm kind of getting to, not the next part of my career, but seeing that I first set out to just do everything I could to be the best, clinical dentist I could, best owner. Now it's, how do I elevate, other team members, help them become the best version of themselves, and, pursue a life that's, bigger than maybe they could imagine. Right. So then you start to think, just like you're saying, planting trees, it's less about what I can do with my own two hands, and now, building something bigger through, the extensions of others, and just trying to lead them through that. Leadership is humbling. I'm learning every day, trying to be a better leader. People are beautiful, but they're so complex, and every team member needs to be led differently. So it's, that's kind of, a passion that I have, is how do I create an environment and an opportunity for other people on my team to learn, grow, and become, better.
Yeah, I love that. It's just, again, giving back and just allowing, I don't know, just everything to grow from the beginning to, I've always been kind of this reciprocal, just, allow yourself to, even in life, just start from the beginning and just work your way up and grow and love the growth and the journey. Just, again, everything in life you don't have to be the best at. It's the fact that you've been given the opportunity to challenge yourself and enjoy that moment. Enjoy, like you said, those moments we are gifted with the challenge, we should be, and enjoy that, the fact that you can, allow yourself to take on that challenge. Right. So, where do you see dentistry in your practice heading over in the next decade?
Yeah, it's great. So the next decade, of dentistry at Alpers Family and Cosmetic Dentistry, I see it expanding and more of what we're doing, a bigger reach through more providers, likely a bigger updated space. But dentistry is rapidly changing, with all the technology. So constantly trying to be, on the edge of that, to always be offering the best to our patients, but continuing to be that, differentiated experience within our community is something that I see staying true to.
Yeah, I love that. And the fact that it's become, again, their new technology brings out new thoughts and procedurals and practices. And it's, again, I never thought in my wildest dream we would go from mercury fillings to now 3D printed,
Right.
new mouths, new smiles, everything. It's really cool. And so I just, again, kudos to those who love it and practice it every day, because again, I just find it fascinating from the standpoint of technology, but again, it's helpful, and I know it's helpful, and I know it's something important. I just, again, I have kudos and respect and empathy for you and your team overall. I do want to just, again, focus on the future here. What kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind?
Yeah. The legacy that I hope to leave behind is, kind of something that, my family and children can look back and be proud on. And I want it to be, bigger than, myself or, a best doctor recommendation, but ultimately just to have a legacy that made as big of impact in our community and, tried to be the absolute best for our patients when we look at specifically at, dentistry and healthcare. And then, like you said, it's like the reach that it could have. I just hope to build other future leaders. Sometimes you don't know the impact that you have on somebody, whether it's a kid, a friend's kid, somebody that you coach, and just set out other people to kind of, whatever their passion is, to kind of make the biggest impact in their communities they can.
I love that. Thank you again for giving me a little bit of your time, Chris. It's again, Dr. Alpers. I really, again, I do appreciate you, because seeing you and hearing your story really does make me connect with you. And that is what I wanted to accomplish with this podcast on every single episode. And I really do feel like you're someone who your patients can come to in good times and bad. And so you really have stood out to me in this, 40 minutes that we've been talking. Again, I just thank you. You are incredible. I want to, I just have a few closing fun questions for you.
Okay.
I think that is
Awesome.
a good down, shift down. And so we can relax shoulders. And this is totally fun. And one of the ones that came across my mind as we were talking was like, thoughts of coaching, thoughts of maybe a work league, because I was like, either you're going to coach your kids' team or you're going to play in a league team. I just want to know where's the route looking for you, because I want to see you back on the court.
Yeah, I would love to be back on there. It's funny. I've more or less hung it up just because I don't want to get hurt.
I understand.
My career is too much dependent, but I do have the urge to see what I can still do. Probably see what I can have. Right now, it's a humbling time in our household because my wife and I are super competitive, but our kids have not yet shared that same competitive urge with sports. So we'll see if or when they get into it. I'll probably be looped into that because it is fun.
Chris, I just again want to thank you for being here today and just being a great guest host or host the guest. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to give you the platform to let everyone know where they can find you online, in person, a phone number, any physical address, anything that you want to give our audience. And the floor is yours to promote. This is your chance. Take it away, Dr. Alpers.
Yeah, thanks, Jose. I had a great time being able to connect today. Easiest way to find us is through our website, alpersdentistry.com. You can also find us on social, Alpers Dentistry. We're conveniently located just a little north of Old Town Scottsdale. Our office number is 480-998-3355, and we'd love to meet you and welcome any new patients that are interested.
Yeah. Quick question. Do you take children?
We do. Yeah. We do see
awesome.
A number of children. So even though
awesome.
we, are specialized in, high-end cosmetic dentistry. We do welcome families and have a lot of fun taking care of them as well.
Beautiful. Thank you for answering all my questions today. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go, you can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. All of our social media under Finding Arizona Podcast, pretty easy. But last but not least, we always end every conversation with the kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends, and we will see you next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye.